Hi, I'm a Gemini friend. So this video is about Saturn in the 8th house. If you want to take a deeper look into Saturn, I have some videos in the description that go over more what it represents within our chart. And you can also find in the description where if you're interested in getting a reading from me, I do offer personal natal chart and synastry readings. But Saturn in the 8th house. So this can indicate very deep-seated pain. This is definitely one of the more painful Saturn placements to have. And while you're going to have Saturn in a sign too, the sign is important. The sign shows you how you go about creating the discipline, the structure of Saturn. But the house is going to feel more personal because this is the area of life that's going to be the most affected by Saturn. And how Saturn affects things is it teaches us lessons. It teaches us how to do things that we don't necessarily want to do. It makes us learn the hard way because we're meant to have authority here. Saturn essentially builds value through its limitations, through the delays and the blockages, because we value something more when we've worked for it. It makes us work for it. And in the area of the 8th house, it's painful and it's also kind of confusing because the nature of Saturn is very material and kind of earthly focused or materially focused, and that's kind of abstract. But the reason why I bring it up is because the 8th house, while it can seem like it's about a lot of physical things like money, shared resources, physical intimacy, these seem kind of like earth things, and Saturn can make it confusing in that way, where it feels like what's actually more deep-seated is related to something more tangible. But the 8th house is a water house, Scorpio is a water sign, this is dealing with Pluto energy, and that means that this is always ultimately emotional and psychological, and it's going on within us. It's really not about what's going on externally, though that's going to be reflected. It's like Saturn shows you a lesson about your internal emotional processes through your relationships with things on a more physical level. And I'll try to explain that more as I get into it. But what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna talk about the struggles, and then I'm gonna go through the growth process, and then we're gonna see what mastery looks like. But if you have Saturn in the 8th house, this is a sign that you are meant to be a complete authority over your internal world and have a very personal, strong, deep understanding of intimacy. All forms of intimacy, what it means to be vulnerable with another person, within a situation. Saturn can make you feel very unsafe when it's in this house. So there tends to be this overall theme of guarding and protecting yourself, whether that's emotionally, financially, sexually, all of the different ways that we can have to rely on another person or show them a deeper, more vulnerable part of ourselves. These are the areas where you might have the biggest issues, but it's, like I said, not always as clear as it seems, because 8th house things are the things that we want to look at the very least. We don't want to face these things. It represents taboos, things that are not considered polite to bring up in conversation, things that people just don't like looking at, and reading between the lines. So building discretion and taking a disciplined approach to seeking the connection that you on a soul level really want, even if it seems scary, that's what we're processing here. Okay, so starting with struggles. This can be a lot of caution or fear regarding emotional vulnerability, things that feel personal, things that feel private. When it comes to things that are private, of course, everybody deserves privacy, and this placement can show that you were restricted from that privacy, or on the flip side, you were forced to keep certain things very private when maybe it was uncomfortable to do so. But when it comes to sharing these really deep parts of ourselves with another person, there are lots of different ways that you can do this, even by sharing secrets. And this whole balance here between trusting someone with something that makes you feel seen and wanting to keep all of those things to yourself just in case somebody betrays you, in case somebody rejects you, makes you feel like there's something wrong with you. This can come with a natural feeling like there is something you need to hide or there is something wrong with you when there's not. And like I said at the beginning, everything is always going to tie back to emotions, to your feelings about things. It's not about restriction within relationships or shared finances or any of that. It is ultimately within you, but that's a good thing because this placement has everything to do with finding your power and learning when to discern, when to assert, and when to trust. That's the balance here between discretion and genuine trust, genuine intimacy. But early on in life, you could be very familiar with control, power, betrayal. Your early modeling of authority figures could have been either deeply private or abusive. All sorts of extremes, whether that's repression or things that you shouldn't have been exposed to so young. And what this leads to is just a general sense of distrust in other people, in whether or not situations you're going into are going to be safe for you or not. Because the 8th house ultimately comes down to survival, and there are all sorts of things that we learn early on that are directly related to survival. This goes into that very primal part of us that just wants to survive, just wants to get by and do the things that we do on a very human level. It's very base level instinct that keeps us alive, that keeps us going. But this can be being stuck at a certain stage here, or stuck within a certain mindset that you learned through trauma to protect that part of you, to not let certain things happen again, to always be watching out for it. And this can cause you to repress all sorts of emotions, memories, things that your body wants to feel, but your mind doesn't want to go there. And it's because it's painful. This is about facing what you don't want to face, but it's always going to be in there. That's the thing that sucks, is that we have this pain. When trauma happens, we don't just forget it. We can't just brush it off. It remains embedded in us until we look at it, until we process it, and then integrate that pain into who we are. It's not about pretending it never happened. It's not about pretending it was okay. It's about your individual way of processing it, because what this placement shows is that you're meant to have incredible resilience. And again, trust that you're going to be okay. That's ultimately it. This is about building that faith in the process of just existing, that everything doesn't have to be bad. But when you are having lessons in the house that really represents crisis situations that make you feel like you're out of control, you're going to continue to face these situations that push you into this energy. And that's because you're meant to look there. You're meant to feel it. You're meant to not avoid it. But if there's a lack of awareness here, if you don't know where it's stemming from, you're going to keep encountering these situations that it's not like you deserve them. It's more your external world is mirroring your internal world and the parts of you that want to be seen, that want that light shown on them so that you can face it. And when it comes to this deep pain that it just feels like you might be constantly carrying around, the pain comes from not addressing it, from ignoring it, from suppressing it, from pushing it down and telling it that it's not worth looking at or it's not worth feeling. But what happens when we ignore feelings, when we just push them down continually? This leads to stagnation. And stagnation is what Scorpio, Pluto, the 8th house, if you're not growing, if you're not addressing the difficult emotions, they stay. They're always going to be there, waiting and trying to make themselves known. So this can feel like torture. It can feel like the world has something out for you, that you're always having circumstances that feel unfair. If you have something unresolved within you that is dealing with something maybe early on in life, something made you feel disrespected or powerless, or like your sense of privacy didn't mean anything, like you didn't have control, that feeling will remain, and it will continually find the situations that are going to make it apparent to you. So patterns, pattern recognition, this is something that you're absolutely meant to learn here. And I'll get more into that in mastery as far as how that's actually useful. But whatever it is that seems the most threatening or that happens continually, that's the answer in some way, whether it's something that you're avoiding or something that just doesn't even seem like it can be fixed. Nothing about you is broken. And this placement actually comes with incredible regenerative abilities, emotional regeneration. But you don't know that, and you can't know that until you experience it and until you go through these things. But you could have grown up in a way where maybe the people around you didn't demonstrate emotion. They didn't ever want to be emotionally vulnerable, didn't just openly show love. That could be something that if you experienced early affection shown to you in a very repressed way, what that does is it really increases the desire for genuine affection. It increases the need for emotional connection. There's a deep longing for emotional connection with this placement. But if this gets mixed up in other feelings or external matters or all of the different ways that this can get confusing, it can lead to all sorts of issues, whether that's dealing with your money, dealing with other people's money, or dealing with physical intimacy. There tend to be extremes here. Like if you feel like you have control over your sexuality, you still might feel like in the moment you're not really there. You're not fully able to open up. You're not able to experience the actual energetic and emotional exchange. It becomes a purely physical experience when with this placement, it's really not intended to be. And that's absolutely no judgment from me. This is such a deeply personal thing, but I do absolutely believe that merging with another person physically, there's always an energetic exchange there. There's always something there, and that is something to be aware of. There's also the extreme of complete celibacy or being very stingy with what you have, not ever taking risks. But this is coming from the wrong place. It's just hiding fear. It's control on the surface, but fear underneath it. Fear of loss, fear of losing control, fear of being truly seen while simultaneously wanting that. That's the struggle here. This can even be wanting financial protection, wanting to feel like you're supported by another person, like it's not all on you, but having a really hard time going all in, whether that's in a relationship, all of the different things that you kind of have to go all in with. So this can lead to a lot of emotional isolation, just feeling completely alone, feeling misunderstood, feeling like nobody will ever get you. But it's really important to recognize what role you play in all of this and what you can do. Because a lot of the times the thing that we might want to do on a deeper level, we can do. It's just that it feels impossible, or it feels way too threatening or too scary or too risky. I mean, the emotional needs of other people can feel like a burden. It can feel like too much to have to deal with somebody else's problems when you have your own. But taking healthy risks, and this means trusting your intuition, trusting your discernment, trusting that you will be okay and that you are guided. You do have help. Faith in any sort of spirituality can be hard with this placement because it can feel like maybe you're the exception, or there's just no desire to believe at all in any sort of like higher power or guiding forces or anything like that. But this is actually a pretty big lesson here too. Of course, your spirituality is totally personal to you and what you believe and what you experience, but it is something that can be incredibly healing to be able to have faith in your own internal guidance, in your ability to know there are some people and situations that you can trust that are for you and that are for your healing in this way. Not everybody is going to hurt you. Not everybody wants to hurt you. But if it feels like it, then you can even create that truth for yourself by shutting people out or by limiting yourself and saying that you can't do certain things that you might want to do. But when you try or when you get close enough, it's just like you shut down. You can't go there. And again, this is related to survival. It's very internal, deep. It's coming from a deep place that isn't necessarily something you're thinking through. It is an impulse or a protective behavior. It's like if banging on a door isn't doing anything and your hand is bruised and it hurts to keep hitting, like, are you gonna keep banging on the door? This is about finding another tactic. It's about nursing your wounds and figuring out what it is that you really want. Is the answer even behind the door? Is banging on it the way that you actually get there? Or is there another way? Is there something that you can give yourself first, or something that you can allow yourself to do despite it being scary because it also feels purposeful? So let's look at what the growth process is. This is all about honesty, internal honesty and authenticity within your emotions. So you're going to have to face these things, facing your shadow, facing the parts of you that have been suppressed or rejected, or parts that seem bad or shameful or pain. It takes bravery and courage to look at that. You can even look at your Mars sign and see what motivates you, what you can do to really embody that passion and pursuit for yourself, and use that to explore things, or use that to motivate yourself to do the things that seem too much or too scary or too risky or too dangerous, too raw, too personal, too private. Because Saturn takes patience, Saturn takes time. Your Saturn placement, you likely are going to struggle with it up until your first Saturn return at least. Even if we focus on it, the problems are going to become very apparent and compound when you reach that first Saturn return, around when you're 28 to 30. But after that, if you learn the lesson, things improve, and everything related to and aspecting your Saturn or in your 8th house also improves. You just have to learn what Saturn is teaching you in order to find this peace and clarity. But what this is, it is a very slow, lifelong, really, initiation into surrendering, into trusting yourself, trusting other people, and building emotional maturity, building emotional resilience, facing the hard things. We can't control everything. We just can't. That's a part of life, is that there are things that are completely going to be out of our control. And the more comfortable you get with that concept, the easier off things are going to be. And you can look at your life wherever you have the most issues and difficulties with, like, feeling like you need to control people. Look at where Pluto is in your chart. Look at your deeper sense of transformation and where that comes up. There is something incredibly transformative about trust. Because when it comes to mutual vulnerability, two people trusting something and putting themselves kind of like equally at risk, and the point is not just to risk things with anything, anyone. The point is to find those people who genuinely align with your truth. But you have to first align with your own truth by facing it, by getting clear on what it is that you're looking for. So all of the relationships and situations that feel like they're pulling you out of your comfort zone, out of control, out of your ability to know where things are going, know exactly how the situation is going to unfold, these are transformative experiences for you. And you want to have patience with them. You want to be clear on your emotional and energetic boundaries. You want to feel things out and use your emotions as a navigating system. It's just important to pay attention to which ones are coming from an unhealed place and which ones are more genuine and authentic and easier. There are absolutely going to be safe spaces for you, safe people, supportive people, people that you will find it's actually rewarding to share with, to work things through with. And when I say share, I mean share the things that are the hardest to share. But this placement also comes with a natural connection to your intuition and a natural connection to just like emotional attunement to other people, to even environments. There's a lot of trust that needs to be built between you and yourself, you and your intuition, especially if you've blocked it off or if you've overdeveloped it. Sometimes this can lead to such a strong sense of discernment that it's like you discern that everybody is unsafe, or that almost every situation seems just not worth it, not worth the risk. So developing balance in this way between seeing patterns and like your more psychological insight, what you recognize in people, you do see traits and behaviors very clearly, and you're likely very naturally attuned to when someone does something, you know what could come after it. You might know what certain behaviors mean or what comes along with it, certain personality traits. You might be very aware of those things. So using that skill in pattern recognition and flipping it instead to recognize your own internal processes and patterns that you've been through with people. Like, say, if this one specific type of betrayal always seems to happen to you, examine why you might be experiencing this over and over, and if it does lead back to any core memories, painful experiences you had when you were younger, or even if you can't find something that it's linked to, there's a reason, there's something there. And especially when we avoid things, like I hope that this doesn't happen to me again, and then it happens, there's a reason for that too. And the reason is not that you deserve to suffer. The reason is that you deserve to take control over things and stop fearing it. Sometimes we will experience specific fears over and over to kind of build resilience and get ourselves more used to it. And that's not because the universe is torturing you. It's your own psychology going through these situations to prove to yourself that you can handle it. And that sounds really painful. Like it's a rough thing to go through, but take your power and understand any of the situations that you've been through that have really hurt, you still made it through. And the more you actually face the fear, then you no longer have to experience it. Then it's not going to keep coming up when you're no longer afraid of it, when you no longer have to look at it. It's not about immediately overcoming the fear. It's about looking at it, acknowledging the pain, and telling the pain, it's okay, you can exist. We can feel this. We can feel upset about it. We can feel anger and hurt and sadness and betrayal. And we've experienced that. We can process the feeling and get it out so that you can grow into a stronger version of yourself. Because when we process emotions, when we feel them, when we get them out, then we no longer have that trapped in our bodies. And then it's no longer unconsciously operating us. And you also know the situations that you're pulled towards. I'm not saying that everything that you're attracted to or feel magnetized towards is going to go smoothly, but there are reasons why. There are reasons why you're drawn to specific things and people. And that's because it has something for you to learn from. So it's about not shying away from it and being as honest as you can. Because this also transforms through honesty. And often when it comes with the suppression of Saturn, honesty is more internal, but it can also be about speaking your truth, about setting emotional boundaries with people, and about allowing yourself to have that initial reaction that you wanted to in the moment. If you were treated poorly as a child, we can process that in all sorts of different ways. But if you go deep and genuine into how you actually felt, what you actually wanted to happen, how you would have preferred to be treated, and then you give that to yourself, you allow it without any shame or guilt or embarrassment, these things need to come out. And they need to come out the right way. Not the way that I'm telling you, not the way that different things will tell you. It'll feel right for you. And often right is kind of what feels wrong. It's wrong in a way that it's coming from fear. Like, no, I shouldn't do this because something will happen. It's always that a threat comes with fear, when the truth, you might not know why. You might not have reasons for it. That's a really good way to discern between fear and actual intuition, is by recognizing whether or not it's warning you against something. Because intuition isn't necessarily going to warn you. It's going to tell you, don't do this, or this doesn't feel good, but you're not gonna have the answer to it. And that's where the faith and trust in yourself comes in. But if you're putting all of your faith and trust into the fear, into the I can't do this or else this will happen, that's how you can work with these complicated, painful feelings and try to make more sense of it. So let's look at what mastery looks like. This is being an authority in transformation, in resilience, in looking at things that people don't want to look at within themselves even. This can be such an incredible placement for seeing other people, seeing their shadow, seeing their darkness, and making them feel complete and whole because you've seen that, you've acknowledged it, you didn't shy away. This can be wonderful for helping other people reach genuine intimacy, feeling seen on a deep soul level, not just their good parts, not just their acceptable parts, but all of them, the messy parts. This is like an attunement to the messy sides of others that is so deeply healing for you and for them. And this is also a sense of extremely strong discernment and boundaries, especially energetic, where people are not affecting your energy the way that they used to. And of course, your intuition, that developed sense of what is right for you, you know what you can trust. You know what you can control and what you can't control. And that fear and pain is no longer there with things that you can't control. And like I said, I mean, this is a lifelong process. Saturn is slow, so it's not about being perfect. It's not about being completely fearless. But that can come with this if you face it. And when it comes to transformation, I mean, it's alchemy. It's turning things into more valuable things, turning pain into deeper wisdom, deeper understanding, and healing. Through what you've been through, you're able to know what you can do with things in order to make them better, more sustainable, stronger. And when it comes to those difficult things like crisis situations or sticky subjects like inheritance, shared resources, things that are related to death or sex or just all the different things, your ability to handle these matters, to be mature and genuinely helpful, whether it's within your own life or with other people, the maturity, the authority that comes with this, it is something that you can't learn unless you've been through this pain and you've come to understand it in the way that Saturn teaches it. And what I was talking about before with pattern recognition, why this is so powerful is that it's like a superpower psychologically, being able to predict people, being able to predict situations. It doesn't just have to be manipulative, it can be incredibly helpful. This is wonderful for helping people see what they're ignoring, see what they need to face in order to change for the better, because it's something that you've been through yourself. So this is like not shying away from the real truth, what really needs to be addressed, handling confrontation, handling things in a way that is ultimately helpful, even if it's not the way that most people want to do it, because it's hard. Confrontation is hard, bringing up things that are going to maybe hurt people within that moment, but they need to hear it. That sort of thing, you can be incredible at this. But it's sticky, it's heavy, it's a lot. This is seriously, this placement can feel very stuck, and that is the one sign that you want to look out for, because a feeling of stuckness is a sign that there is something you need to address, something that you need to face or do or risk or explore, something. Do not let yourself get stagnant with this placement, because that's the end of things. Saturn comes around again. We can experience several Saturn returns throughout our lives. So if you think that the initial suffering of Saturn in the 8th is painful, the compounded ignoring of that is so much more painful. So make sure that you are facing things, even if you don't want to, even if it's scary. And while this is going to be something different for everybody, I feel like there's often a gut feeling that comes with that. The thing that you might feel the most resistant to, the thing that you're like, no, no, I'm not gonna go there. That's the thing. That's all. That's what I have to say with this placement. It's really hard to navigate, and I hope that I've made sense of this, because I know how entangled and personal and just ow this can be. But I want you to be the most fresh, powerful, resilient version of yourself, because you deserve that. You deserve to transform and continually transform, continually upgrade. So Let me know if you relate to this or any of your experiences if you have this placement. And thank you so much for watching. I really, really, really appreciate you. I love you. Bye.